I'm Glenn McGinnis and welcome to Outburst. This week, while the pandemic has been taking much of the attention, what other issues should our government be focused on?
The whole thing around the seniors and what's going to happen in these homes and with all the people working in the homes.
The one thing I would like to actually see is universal dental care.
Trying to come back to normal, whatever is needed for that.
Probably getting back to day-to-day business.
But first, as the weather gets warmer, some of the restrictions put in place during COVID-19 have been loosened in many parts of the country, at least for now. For countless Canadians, being able to reunite in person with family and friends after a few months of self-isolation is a welcome relief. But no matter how slightly the restrictions may be loosened, there are some that feel it's still too much too soon. So we posed this question.
How eager are you to see restrictions lifted?
The responsibility is yours. You have to accept the responsibility of not spreading this. That is the most important thing. It's not staying at home, it's being responsible. That's the big thing. Then you can open restrictions, you can open the bars and everything else if everybody keeps their distance and wears a mask.
I'm not super eager, I'm kind of a homebody at heart anyways, but it's great to get out for a little walk here and there just to get some sun, but I'd rather everybody be safer than sorry and be cautious and make smart choices and not get too ambitious because we don't want to, we don't want this to all blow up again.
I think we've done a really good job so far at going with the stage 1, stage 2. I mean, we've lifted quite a few restrictions, comparatively to a lot of other places around the world, and I think we're doing really great so far. I think it's important to see what happens after 2 or 3 weeks of a stage 2 before you move into fully opening everything again, just to see if numbers go up or how everybody is faring with the stage 2 current situation.
Not very eager if they are. I think the timing would be important here, so I think should take our time to make it safer.
Very much so. I think it's time, but I think we still need to do it in a meaningful way. Some people are very concerned and nervous. I think the overall media has created quite a storm around this. And so sometimes there's not a lot of good information for everybody to follow. So I think this needs to be improved and need to be open up the economy. I don't know how fast though.
In Manila, where my friends are at the moment, only one person can leave the house and they're only given one pass, and you need to show this pass to actually leave the house. So I think in Vancouver and in Canada in general, our government has been taking care of us really well. I think we've had it in terms of restrictions pretty easy compared to the rest of the world, and I'm really grateful to go for lunch with my friends and to be out on a sunny day. Really grateful to be dressed up and have somewhere to go.
I am very eager. I think it'll be great if first of all, it depends how everyone does, right? If this keeps going on, then might have to extend it for a little bit. But for now, I think I'm like you can see, I'm already excited to be out after a long time. I think it'll be great.
I am semi. I think the restrictions here in BC have been great, and obviously they've worked. But I think everybody's looking forward to them being loosened up a little bit as we move forward.
As soon as possible, if possible, as long as safety is kept in mind, as long as people don't get sick more than they are now, and as long as there's not a second wave, as long as it doesn't promote a second wave.
Yes, we're all eager, but naturally we have to follow what is necessary. It's a very strange situation, and we have to take what the government says and what the scientific says and follow that, because we can't all just do it ourselves.
I would like the restrictions to be lifted because I just moved here on March 1st, and now I am locked down in a city where I ostensibly can't make any friends. But honestly, that's just a selfish desire. Whatever's the safest for the most amount of people, I think, is the best thing.
Sure, we want to go back to normal, but at the same time, we want to be safe, and we don't want to be sick. So I don't know.
I'm in favor of the lifted. I'm in favor because one day or the other, the economy has to restart again and again. So we cannot stay like that forever. So I'm in favor.
I'm eager that the venues will open up soon, because right now musicians can't play. They can't play anywhere. So how can we get money out of our art? You know. So that's yeah.
I think we need to be very cautious and don't take it as something permanent. I think we're gonna readjust the measure almost every week to be sure the second wave doesn't start.
Well, I'd like to see them lifted for a variety of reasons, and particularly I'd like to see for the seniors in the homes, which I think is kind of a tragedy. So that's, to me, is the fact that that they're kind of locked away. It's a real, and we have a personal stake in that, along with many other people, that, you know, these people are kind of, it's like a tragedy, really.
With this pandemic has come many firsts, and one of great significance here in this country is the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB. It provides Canadians whose livelihoods have been sidelined by the pandemic with $500 per week to help them get by. The CERB has also sparked discussion about a universal basic income for those Canadians who need it. Some people will say we can't afford that, while others may say it could be redirected to replace costly government programs which many say do very little to help Canadians obtain the basic necessities of life. So, what do you think? Our question.
How do you feel about a universal basic income for all Canadians?
Beyond that concept is providing structures that give people the opportunity to have purpose and thrive and job situations. More than the basic income to provide needs, but then beyond that is providing opportunity for our poor communities to get the capacity to sustain themselves. And I think that's a more sustainable growth perspective.
I don't agree with that myself. I think that when you need help should be available, but I don't think that would really push us towards everybody being involved in a society that we've created right now.
I think it would solve a lot of our social problems. We have a patchwork of programs, and we might discover that the universal income saves us a lot of money in the long run.
I don't know how that would work. That feels a little too socialist for me. I kind of feel like we're already in that place with all the things that have happened financially to support people right now. I think there's efforts being made in different provinces. Maybe they should be united to do things to, federally, so that there is a different income for persons with a disability, yes. But universal for all, no. I don't think that would help the country.
In my mind, it might be cheaper than a lot of other programs, all mishmashed with help. And I think it would give everyone better support, probably a healthier country.
Different cost of living in different cities, throughout different provinces, throughout different areas. Someone in a rural setting versus someone in a city setting, transportation costs, all these things are going to impact that. So no, that doesn't make any sense.
I think that's coming. I think that's one of the things that has to happen. And get rid of some of the other programs and put everything into one envelope and support everybody.
Love it. I think we should make sure that every person, every citizen in Manitoba or in Canada has a good life. I mean, that's our responsibility as communities.
I do not think it's realistic. I think it's optimistic. I think it's, in a ideal world, that would be great, but the fact of the matter is some of us work harder than others, and some of us are more motivated than others, and I think we should be rewarded in that respect.
I don't agree. I actually don't want to have basic income unless, you know for sure that people are going to do everything possible to try and get a job.
I don't think anybody's ever managed to make it work.
And it's a great idea in theory. In practice, no.
I think it's realistic, but to an extent, because it's obvious how many people needed to draw on the CRB and CESB programs right now and how needed they are. But also I think the strain on the government and the debt that we're currently in, it's realistic, but we can't have everyone just not working because they want to draw on this payment. But I think if people are, like, the unemployment rate is so high that we have to do something or people are just going to be on the streets.
I think we can do it. I think it will make quality of life better. Anything that would contribute towards improving the quality of life is something that I feel is worthwhile.
Well, I do support it, but I don't want to pay any more taxes, but I do support it. If I have to pay more taxes, so be it.
Why do you think it's important?
Because I think that there are people that could get by a lot better on a basic income than they are on no income or on unemployment.
Yeah, there are a number of people interested in it, and I think down the road there are a lot of things going to be on the government's plate, but we will get there for that. Probably not, maybe not in my lifetime.
That the pandemic is really highlighting some of the social issues of our society, and healthcare. I mean, the nursing homes is one, and I think we're going to have to look at maybe an income, a basic income for everybody, like we have a basic coverage for healthcare. Yeah.
And do you think it's realistic or affordable?
Well, whether or not it's affordable, it may have to happen. And, the government keeps printing the money. So, I won't be here to pay it, but they keep printing the money.
My understanding of UBI is that it might actually save taxpayers money by effectively just putting income in people's hands and they can spend it as they wish, as opposed to all the various inefficient systems we have like food banks and different things like that. So I think in summation, I've said a lot, but I'm in favor of UBI.
I understand that there are people out there that are, I have family that are struggling, wondering what tomorrow's going to bring for them, right? They don't seem to have enough information about their security. Like, is everything going to fall apart for them? Are they going to lose everything? Is anybody going to be there to protect them?
It's a kind of a balance, but depending upon the territory, depending upon the location, I think a decision can be made later on.
I think the premise of it is a good idea. For me as an employer, it's been tricky because I wanted to hire some of the part-timers back, but for them to come back, it doesn't make any sense when they're getting the CERB. So for them to have $2,000 coming in when maybe their hours would only amount to, like a dozen hours, so they might just be getting a few $100s. It doesn't make any sense. So that's been challenging. Overall, for most people, I think it's a really good idea. But again, for small businesses, it hasn't always been favourable.
In what year was the Canada Pension Plan created? 1950, 1965, 1980.
1965.
I'm going to say 1950.
1950.
I'm going to say 1980, but I'm not sure. It all predates me.
I'm going to say 65.
You are absolutely right, sir.
Good.
The Canada Pension Plan, also referred to as the CPP, was created in 1965 to help retired Canadians out of poverty after they stopped working and earning income. Every worker in Canada, except for those in Quebec who contribute to the Quebec Pension Plan, contributes to the CPP along with their employers. The CPP was originally set to distribute about 25% of a worker's average lifetime earnings and was paid for through payroll taxes. Today, the CPP also relies on investments managed by the CPP Investment Board to maintain enough money to pay out retirees. And in 2016, CPP benefits were adjusted to eventually bring post-retirement payouts up to 33% of a worker's earned income, with a maximum set at $20,600 per year.
In terms of economies around the world, this pandemic has had a profound effect rivaling levels set by the Great Depression. On the rebound, Canada will require significant amounts of stimulus to bounce back despite higher debt levels. But the further along we move and the more the restrictions are lifted, the easier it will be for the money to flow. So, as we rebuild, we took this question to Canadians.
What steps should be taken to restore Canada's economy?
Really, I guess, as long as we can continue our way of life and have a food supply and medicine and stuff, let the politicians try and sort it out and the economists.
I feel like we're very reactive in this situation, and I think we definitely need to step it up and promote small business. I live in this area and I'm very concerned about the downtown. They've been through a lot with the construction and now this, so I definitely think they have to put some proactiveness into what they're doing.
I don't know, we've got a huge debt and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're leaving it to the next generation and the next generation. I don't know, I think so much money that's being spent now should have been spent preventively in the past. We should have been better prepared.
Well, I believe they need to do the infrastructure like most of the premiers are talking about, and I guess that's the main thing.
I think we do need to become more self-reliant in North America and Europe. I'm strongly in favor of reducing the dependency on China.
Get people back working and cut the giveaways, the massive giveaways. Get them working and earning their keep.
Well, they're going to have to bring it back because I'm from the restaurant industry, so they're just going to have to you're going to have to decide, wear a mask and like 6 feet apart. So you're with your group, and then maybe they'll have to only have a 50% capacity, but they have to do something. You can't just shut everything down.
Well, start off by not giving away the ship like he's been doing now for every day. He comes out at 11 o'clock and he opens up his checkbook, and it's all going to be paid back. And not our generation, but future generations are going to get stuck with a pretty big bill. I think he has to be a little bit more moderate in his approach. I think he's becoming a little bit more political than he should be under the circumstances, and he's trying to take advantage of this opportunity to get the kind of results that he's looking for as far as popularity is concerned.
You know what? I think it really comes down to, in a sense, the people. I mean, we do have to support local businesses. That's one of the key things, and that's what we've kind of done as well, that anything that we can is said, okay, not big box, let's go to the smaller kind of stores, and that's going to be really key, is support Canadian made products and support the local businesses as much as can possible. Mm-hmm. And start from there.
I think number one, we have to get people back to work, and then obviously support restaurants, everything else to get them up and running as well. I think we just have to get confidence back, because I think people are not going to spend if they don't have confidence that their employment is going to be secure, and it's just going to be a ripple effect throughout.
Some businesses are going to fail. That's too bad. Businesses fail all the time. It's inevitable, and things happen. Although if there's support out there for new business interest, then I think a business that can come back or recreate itself needs a little help right now for the next year, at least, for sure.
Well, I think that the federal plan for guaranteed income was a smart move. I think phasing it out will be tricky, and I think that Manitoba's provincial government's plan of cutting jobs is foolish and untimely, and I think that the more people who are working, the better.
Well, the steps that we're taking right now are very good ones. I think the Trudeau government has really stepped up to the plate, but I'm just a little bit worried about the whole problem of when the dust settles, what our tax is going to be looking like.
We were just actually talking, my friend and I, about shopping, and I still don't really feel comfortable shopping, so that just gives you an example of not feeling right about going places that are indoors. Like outdoors feels okay, but the indoor part. So long story short, or short story long, I'm not really sure what needs to be done to get the economy going.
I think just continue with the steps that we're taking and slowly open like the businesses that we are, but keeping like social distancing, and like I think the good idea is like a lot of businesses are doing click and collect instead of like going into the stores, so that's a good idea.
I don't know, I think the government is going about the right way of doling out money to the people, so the people have money to spend to continue to, if you're spending, the economy's still moving. So the government helping people out that are in need is definitely a good way to keep the economy going. And also, I think that keeping relations open with China, keeping relations open with the U.S. as far as moving goods and services is very important as well.
COVID-19 pretty much engulfs everything Canadians talk about these days, and rightly so. It's a pandemic, and the health and safety of Canadians is at stake. But just because COVID-19 takes up much of the spotlight doesn't mean there aren't other issues our federal government should be paying attention to. So, we took the next topic to you.
What other issues would you like to see your government pay attention to?
The one thing I would like to actually see is universal dental care. Because I know people, a lot of poor people I knew have a hard time getting jobs who have bad teeth. I know a lot of people, it's really, really expensive to get dental work after, 12 is kind of cut off. I know so many people can't get jobs because they got bad dental bad, and trust me, it hinders a lot of people.
I think most of the issues fall out of COVID-19. Long-term care, daycare. I do not have grandchildren and don't pay much attention, but I've been hearing more that it is an issue in terms of returning to work.
I'm not sure. I guess for the more rural areas, access to more information channels, they're kind of left out when it comes to health and being part of the province.
Our health care has always been down. I remember the strike a couple of years ago threw everyone into a tailspin. So with COVID, if we had been overrun with it, I don't know if our healthcare system would have kept up with it. So I think looking into that more heavily in the future and putting more funds towards that would definitely be something the government should consider beyond COVID.
Firstly, people's safety should be priority, and then try to implement the way the economy can kind of evolve, I guess, as time goes on and it becomes less of a risk, I guess.
One of the very simple thing I would say is trying to come back to normal, whatever is needed for that. Everything. I mean, when it comes to supporting the business, supporting education, supporting people in need of help and all, whatever needs to be done, whatever. I'm not going to the individual things, but yes, whatever needs to be done, I would say return to normal. Steps need to be, whatever steps need to be taken, and whatever resources are needed for that has to be in place.
We have a very, very large proportion of the world's Arctic, and yet have very little infrastructure in the Arctic. We pay very little attention to it with our research and funding dollars. And we have just established our first University of the North, but we don't have kind of pan-territorial university presence. And I think the Canadian government could do a lot more to kind of recognize our huge place in the global Arctic and what we could be doing to highlight that.
Well, I mean, I'm outside of a pub, I work in the hospitality industry, and I really think that we understand, all of us in hospitality understand that there needs to be travel restrictions, there needs to be restrictions on hospitality, but really focusing on bringing that back in a strong way. When it comes down to it, hospitality is a way for all of us to come together, and tourism is a way for us to see the parts of this country that we might not get to just outside of our front door, and really putting a strong focus on that. I would really like to see our government take a peek at that.
Well, I think it's the economic aspect. I think we should take care and make sure that people who lost their job can find job quickly, and also help small businesses about the thing. But other than COVID, there are a lot of things that are going on. I mean, there's our international relation with China and all this stuff, yeah?
Well, specifically to British Columbia, I think that, the drug issues in certain parts of the city and the homeless, situation, I think that, these people need help, and I think that the government really should strive to help these people and for the betterment of the city and their lives. And, I think that it's being almost spotlit a little bit by the COVID, and just seeing how, little resources that these people have that they could have especially in a time of crisis like this.
In relation to COVID, I think it's really important what's happened with the elderly care homes and exposing all these things that have been going on in the care homes and creating great change amongst that. I think what Canada needs to work on is incorporating our Indigenous cultures and our First Nation cultures into the education system, and instead of creating this us and them within Canada, incorporating Indigenous learning and Indigenous culture into our education system. I think it's really important for First Nations people, and I think it's really important for us. We live on the land that lives and breathes of a First Nations culture that we came and settled as far as all the immigrants, and there needs to be more of a connection between First Nations, Inuit, French Canadian, and Canadian. We're such a huge country, and it'd be nice to share more of our culture amongst one another.
Well, I think a couple of things they need to be mindful of is that, don't create a long structural deficit where it may not make sense. If you want to open up the economy, do it in a way that will actually get people to sort of also dig in a little bit themselves. Don't make it too easy of a landing spot. I had parents that went through the Great Depression, and it's time that we have people to go through a little bit more pain than they are going through right now. It seems brutal, but I think it's important that we all do it.
There were a lot of issues coming up before COVID, people talking about the oil pipelines and things like that. So, I hope we can resume talking about those kind of things. And I think this financial crisis has sort of elucidated a lot of our reliance on oil. So I'd like to see people talk about that.
The whole thing around the seniors and what's going to happen in these homes, and with all the people working in the homes, and what's going to happen to all the people that have family in these homes. So I think it's the biggest issue, I think, in terms of the COVID that's going on right now.
The crisis between people who trust the government and a lot of people who lost the trust in government and media, and I think it's a matter of dialogue and education, and I think it's important to keep the dialogue between everyone.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on the Cable Public Affairs channel. I'm Glenn McGuinness. If you have any comments or questions about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. It's your turn to speak up, and we're listening.